Yeah.
Oh, higher?
All right. Let's start this thing right on time. How about that?
Yeah, I like that.
So I'm Adam Rubin. I'm the Vice President of Campaigns and the Director of Economic Security Project Action. We're co-sponsoring this event today with Community Change Action and a whole bunch of other organizations that you'll hear from today. So I'm going to just make a couple of quick remarks and then introduce the speakers as we go. We have a lot of people, so I'm going to ask all the speakers to stick to your 2 minutes, please, and we'll keep this thing right on time. So Republicans are gutting critical services that families rely on, like Medicaid and food security, and pushing more kids into poverty, all to pay for more tax cuts for their billionaire donors and wealthy corporations. Republicans are showing their true priorities. They promised to stand up for working families, but in fact, they're siding with their billionaire donors. The Republicans' proposals include pushing more kids into poverty. The Republican child tax credit, as families struggle with rising costs, their tax credit would permanently kick out 4.5 million U.S. citizen kids. It would do nothing for 17 million low-income and working-class kids because their families earn too little to get the full child tax credit. This Republican child tax credit could push 2 million kids into poverty or deeper into poverty. And of course, those same families that are affected by the cuts to the child tax credit are the same ones who will be affected by the cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and other programs, as you'll hear from the other speakers in a few minutes. So all of that is to pave the way for more tax cuts for their billionaire donors, even more tax cuts for the billionaires than in the last Trump tax scam. The Tax Policy Center has new information out yesterday that says under the GOP tax plan, 50 million households making under $200,000 a year would get no tax cut at all or would pay even more in taxes. And yet if you're a millionaire, you're getting an average tax cut of $100,000. So under Trump and the Republicans, it is a great time to be a billionaire, and it is a lousy time to be a working family struggling to get by. It doesn't have to be this way. We need a fairer tax code at the top and the bottom of the income ladder. We need no more tax cuts for billionaires and wealthy corporations. Instead, we need to be putting money back into working and middle-class families' pockets to help with high costs, to help with gas and groceries and rent. We need to expand the child tax credit. We need to make health care more affordable. We need to make child and elder care more accessible. We need to make housing something that a family can afford. And to bring down costs, we need to rein in the giant corporations that are ripping us off and taking money out of their pockets because of the special tax breaks and loopholes that they get. And this fight is ultimately about whose side we're on and whose side they're on. They are standing with billionaires and wealthy corporations. We are on the side of working and middle-class families that are struggling in a time of high costs. I want to introduce Desmond Surratt from Community Change Action.
Thank you. So one of my favorite old union leaders used to say, "You're looking strong and looking good. You ought to be in Hollywood." But you're not. You're here with me on a rainy day in Washington, D.C. in the Cannon office building, fighting to save Medicaid and SNAP. And I'm grateful that you are. My name is Desmond Surratt. I'm with Community Change Action. It's an honor to be here with you today, with my colleagues with ESPA and champions of Congress who are fighting for families like yours and mine. Over the last few months, we have all been reminded of the incompetence of the Trump regime and the Republicans who support him. They brought chaos and delays and fear to our airports and to our communities. They're snatching people from the street and disappearing them. They have no strategy on trade. They have gutted our civil service. They have no respect for our democracy. But I'll tell you one thing the Trump regime is good at. It's peddling lies to the American people. Trump came in promising lower costs to everyone, but the opposite is happening. Food and basic necessities are getting more expensive. There's more inflation now than before, and it's driving us straight toward a recession. And instead of actually doing anything to help families in this moment, Republicans in Congress are falling in line behind Trump's dangerous tax bill that will give huge tax breaks to billionaires and wealthy corporations, widening the gap between the rich and everyone else. It's offensive how Republicans are recklessly willing to hurt their own constituents to win brownie points with the MAGA regime. It's offensive to me that the richest will benefit from this bill while the most poor will suffer. And while Republicans will have you believe that there isn't enough for all of us, we know that's not true.
That's right.
What's really happening is that they are taking from poor people by cutting Medicaid and then SNAP in order to give more to billionaires. More to billionaires. To put it, that's right. To put it simply, Republicans are helping billionaires siphon money from our economy so that they can hoard more wealth. And they are already hoarding more wealth than ever before. Perhaps worst of all, it doesn't have to be this way. Republicans are choosing to take away people's health care, their medicines, their at-home care workers, their hospitals, and their access to food. All this in order to line the pockets of the billionaire donors who bankroll their campaigns and launch themselves into space. There's a joke there somewhere that I won't make. This is what Republicans are doing right now inside the Capitol. Medicaid and SNAP give millions of people the ability to make ends meet, to put food in their bellies, to get care from a doctor, and to live their lives with dignity. People like Mariah, who you will hear from shortly, will tell you more about that. People like Miss Cheryl in Louisiana, who lives on a fixed income and needs Medicaid to pay for a medication that costs hundreds of dollars each month. She says if it weren't for these programs, she'd lose her home. Also, there's also people like William in Indiana who had a liver transplant and wouldn't be alive if it weren't for these programs. There's also Brianna in Maine, whose dad was able to get the care he needed after a traumatic stroke. It's the parents and grandparents who are able to take care of their families because of these lifeline programs. I said lifeline programs.
That's right.
At the end of the day, that's all we want, to be able to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. That's right. That should be the bare minimum that our government provides. And our government should be making it easier for people to thrive, not harder. That's the future I'm fighting for. That's the future we're all fighting for. A future where we can all thrive. One where we put money back in the hands of the people who need it most by expanding access to health care, helping them to put food on the table, investing in our child care system and making it more affordable, and protecting the basic needs programs that keep millions of families and children afloat.
Tell the truth. Yes.
Yeah.
I say again, these are our lifeline programs. We will not back down. We will not shrink from this fight. Thank you so much.
I'm pleased to introduce Representative Judy Chu of California. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm Congressmember Judy Chu from California's 28th District, and I'm a member of the Ways and Means Committee. And in just 2 hours, in fact, we also have Congressmember Lloyd Doggett from that committee, we are going to go in there and fight the Republicans as they try to give even more tax breaks for billionaires while cutting all our social safety net programs. Amen. Yeah. Amen. And we are going to say no.
Yeah.
No. You know, let's take stock of where we are. Our once healthy, growing economy has been turned upside down by the chaos and cruelty of President Trump and Republicans. Elon Musk and Doge have gutted federal agencies without achieving any savings for Americans, just chaos. Medical research programs have been canceled so abruptly that terminal cancer patients were sent home without treatment. U.S. citizens, including a 2-year-old child who is an American citizen child, are being deported without due process.
That ain't right.
Shame.
And of course, the deficit continues to grow. So does this Republican bill do a single thing to fix these crises? No. Instead of helping working families, this bill hands out trillions of dollars of tax breaks to billionaires and the biggest corporations, while middle-class families get left with crumbs.
Shame.
Instead of strengthening Medicare or Social Security, it blows a gigantic hole in the deficit that puts these essential programs at even greater risk. And remember when Republicans promised for months that they wouldn't cut Medicaid or take away people's health care? Well, instead, this bill includes the largest cut to Medicaid in our nation's history.
That ain't right.
And it will hurt people like my constituent, Chi Kwong, a 74-year-old who's worked for 40 years as a warehouse worker and now depends on Medicaid and Medicare after major surgeries. His future is now in jeopardy. And that's not all Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act. Their bill slashes the premium tax credits that keep the ACA affordable for millions of Americans. And in fact, the Congressional Budget Office just confirmed that at least 13.7 million Americans will lose their health care. So this is not about cutting waste, fraud, or abuse. It's about cutting health care for families, kicking seniors out of the nursing homes, shutting down hospitals in rural communities, and it's about making billionaires richer while working families suffer. And guess what? With this bill, the top 1% get an extra $165 a day. And what does a family earning less than $50,000 get? 73 cents a day. Yeah. That's the crumbs that this bill will give the American people. But we're not giving up. As a member of the Ways and Means Committee, I know my colleagues and I are going to fight with everything that we have to stop the bill in today's markup. And we need every single one of you to protest, to rally, and to tell your story about all the harm that these actions are going to do to you. One thing we cannot do is give up. Remember, they tried to take away the Affordable Care Act in the first Trump administration. We fought, and in the end, yes, we won, and the Affordable Care Act is still here. So let's keep on fighting. Let's continue to work for the people, and let's continue to save Social Security, SNAP, Medicare, and Medicaid now. Thank you.
I'm pleased to introduce Representative Lloyd Doggett of Texas. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm pleased to join Judy, and I'll just say this. America will not remain the land of the free unless we have more Americans like this who are the land of the brave, who will not cower in the face of injustices like we are seeing here today. That's right. Because Trump's one big, beautiful bill that we're about to take up is nothing but an ugly lie built on a mountain of lies. Republicans talk fiscal responsibility all the time while practicing incredible fiscal irresponsibility by adding trillions to our national debt after they've done these harmful cuts, endangering the future of what Elon Musk calls a Ponzi scheme, but which generations of Americans have relied upon as Social Security. It is a lie to say that this bill focuses its tax relief on the middle class. A significant part, trillions, of the cost of this bill results entirely from providing more tax breaks for the rich, the very rich, and the very, very rich. For every dollar of tax relief, as Representative Chu was just saying, for those who work, who earn less than $50,000, it provides hundreds, indeed thousands of times more benefit for someone who's earning more than $1 million a year. Our multinational corporations get even more benefits out of this bill, and yet a survey showed that the tax rate that they are paying is 7.8%. Wouldn't a nurse or a firefighter or a small business person like to have a rate that low? No, they pay much more. And the pharma companies, we're trying to preserve access to prescriptions, but Big Pharma last year, most of their companies didn't pay a dime of corporate taxes. And those who cut hedges, they ought to do as well as the hedge fund managers, but no, under this bill, hedge fund managers will continue to get a 20% tax rate on most of their earnings. In Trump's America, the wealthiest few, those are the people that the Republicans are working for. Not the single mother who's struggling to provide for her family, not the teacher who's taken a second job and trying to save for retirement, yet will pay more in tax rate than multinational corporations. This is just like the last Trump tax scam that so much of America rejected back in 2017. The average working American family will be asked to foot the bill for our national security and other vital services, while some don't pay their fair share. Our tax code is already overflowing with loopholes and special advantages and privileges for the richest few in multinational corporations, and this bill just adds more of them. It's like a horde of locusts descending on our committee when a tax bill is being written, but they're all lobbyists for the rich and the multinationals. So today, some are too scared to stand up to Donald Trump and all of these lobbyists. These folks are not. Those of us who will be fighting on the Ways and Means Committee will be doing all we can for tax justice, not more tax injustice. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to you. I'm pleased to introduce next Representative Debbie Dingell of Michigan. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, everybody. And I want to thank all of those who've come together and how great it is to be with my colleagues, Lloyd and Judy. But we are, as they go to Ways and Means, we are getting ready to go to Energy and Commerce Committee, where we are going to fight and win to protect services that America. And you got to be there to help us do it, because this isn't numbers. This is human beings that are impacted by this every single day. I want to say that if the bill that they're proposing passes, and to quote my governor, Gretchen Whitmer, we're going to fight like hell. 83% of the people in Michigan, according to a poll over the weekend, do not want to see Medicaid cut. 75% of the children being treated at Children's Hospital in Detroit are on Medicaid. People don't, and by the way, Medicaid is more cost efficient. I'm tired of the bullshit about waste and fraud. Medicaid, we could talk about the waste and fraud at the Defense Department and contracts that are going to a certain billionaire, but I'll behave and stay focused on the subject at hand. But Medicaid is more efficient than any private insurance company in America, and that is a fact. So when we go, the Republicans have proposed several plans to cut Medicaid, and they're going to do this under that guise that I talked about of trimming the fat and reducing inefficiency. And by the way, you know when we're really going to get to it? In the middle of the night. Because they don't want America to see how they're going to try to screw working men and women across this country. Everyone, we're here, and that's why we're doing this, so that everyone will notice, and that we are telling the story, that the children's, the seniors, the people with disabilities, and everyone else who's going to be kicked off their health insurance so billionaires can get a tax cut are going to stand up and make their voices heard. Because what they are proposing, if we don't change it, if we don't fix it, people are going to die. Yes. Children are going to die. Seniors are going to die. We can't stop telling the stories and sharing the human stories. I'm going to tell you about a couple that I've heard about. This morning, I met with Taylor and Kyle, who will be in the committee room this afternoon. Their son, George, has Down syndrome. They adopted him when he was 3 weeks old because they wanted to give him a life, which is rich and full. And when you see him, you can't help smile. He's 5 now, and he makes everybody just like, I wish there were a few more happy people around here like him. But he needs Medicaid. They couldn't afford to have adopted him without Medicaid. They both work, they both have insurance, but they need the Medicaid to take care of him as a child. He's healthy, but he needs a lot of support, including extra speech therapy hours, services his school can't provide, and medical care that's unpredictable. He may need heart surgery at some point. They thought he might need it this month. He's doing okay right now, and they're monitoring it. He's had ambulance rides and hospital stays and other things his parents could not afford on their own. They're able to give him the care that he needs with no impossible co-pays or bills. And that's what Medicaid does. Right. That's right. It helps vulnerable Americans. Children like George and their families meet their most basic needs. It's not a luxury. It's not excessive. It's essential care. That's right. Yeah. I've been traveling around Michigan with the governor talking about Medicaid. And a few weeks ago, a woman approached me and asked me if her husband, who has Alzheimer's, would be thrown on the street if long-term care is changed. What would she do? Would he die? How would she live? People shouldn't be having to worry about those questions. Medicaid gives that helping hand to people that need it. Nor should we be ripping Affordable Care Act. Affordable Care Act in Michigan was expanded under a Republican governor, Rick Snyder. People will immediately lose their health care and then not qualify for Medicaid either. It's just plain morally wrong. So we need to make sure we're lifting the human stories. We are going to go into this committee and fight like hell and try to not let them win with what they want to do and to strip the bullshit from what they say they are going to do and hiding from it. You cannot cut $880 billion from Medicaid. That's right. And not have someone die. People will die. Thank you.
Next, I'm pleased to introduce Randy Weingarten from the American Federation of Teachers. Thanks for joining us.
So where do we start? Sorry, can I push these down? Thanks. So you know that something is wrong with a bill when they can't even give you the whole bill totally, when it's cut up in little pieces, and everything is being done within like 18 hours, so it's not possible to fully read the whole thing. The fact that there is no transparency about any of this speaks volumes about what is in here. So for the people who have actually read it over the last few days, over the last few hours, this is what we're seeing. There is a safety net in the United States of America. It's not perfect, but there's a safety net. And that safety net has been fought for over the last, 60s, 70s, 80s. I'm a social studies teacher, so you do the math for me. The 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, the 2020s, 80 years. And that's
soldiers have died in Osage stuff.
And that safety net basically got expanded and said, if you have a private insurance, that's fine. But if you don't have private health insurance, there's going to be a few things that we do as the United States of America to help people. Yeah. One is if your parents or grandparents are in long-term care because you're working and you can't care for them at home. That's the only place they can go. And it's hugely expensive. Medicaid helps pay for that. Or as Representative Dingle said, and so many others can say, if there's an Alzheimer's patient, or a kid is disabled, or there's a rural hospital, I can go on and on and on. We have a safety net that's formed by the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid. And this budget proposal takes a hatchet and says no. And why do they say no? Is it because there is a major recession in the United States? No. They say no simply to give people who are rich more tax benefits. Taking from people who really need it, who have fought for it, who said we need to have this safety net, taking it away so that people who don't need it get more. And that's the whole bill. You can look at it in any way. So if it's not that, then it's cruelty, such as what it does in terms of parents who pay their taxes but may not have a Social Security number. All of a sudden, somebody's no longer to be eligible for either the child tax credit or the low-income tax credit. And then, as they're taking money away from public schools, as they're taking millions and billions of dollars away, what are they doing? They're saying, oh, by the way, you can have another charitable deduction for vouchers. You may not have another charitable deduction for any of the charities right now that you have, but you can have this. So the bottom line is this. A budget tells you priorities. And the priorities here, regardless of what the Republicans say, is to basically undermine working people, people who work hard, and give tax cuts to the rich. And that is why all of us are fighting it. People should pay their fair share of taxes.
Yes.
In a progressive way. Those who have the most should be given the most. Those who have the least, in America, we should be helping them.
Yes.
This does the opposite.
Next, I'm going to bring up Stephanie Robel from Popular Democracy.
So I'm not as good a speaker as everyone else here, but if you've ever been hungry, raise your hand. Who's ever skipped a meal? Who's ever had their stomach growl? So everyone in this room understands what it's like to be hungry, right? Yes. I run a food pantry in Metro Detroit that delivers free groceries to 600 to 1,000 of your grandparents a month. In early March, the Trump administration and DOJ cut $4.3 million worth of money to food banks in Metro Detroit. Right now, we are scrambling to find fresh food for my veterans and seniors, such as eggs, milk, butter, produce, and other things that keep them healthy. With the proposed cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, this would be a death sentence to some of the seniors in Metro Detroit and across our country. They rely on their medications, and some days they make choices between having to feed themselves and to take their medications already. That is not okay in the land of the free. We were promised that everyone would have justice and liberty, and we have seniors and grandparents and veterans and children starving. These cuts to
especially after they fought to save this country
Exactly.
in a war and put their lives on the line. That's not right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And on top of that, every person deserves dignity, especially those who cannot provide for themselves at this point in their life. Just because you can't provide for yourself doesn't mean you don't deserve the dignity and respect of being able to have a full stomach. Because who here is capable of doing anything on an empty stomach? I know that if I'm hungry, and I'm a big girl, if I'm hungry, I can't pay attention. So I can just imagine for a senior what it would be like to be hungry and not be able to call in your medications or to not be able to access your medications. So I'm calling on everybody to start fighting for our seniors, start fighting for their rights, start fighting for our veterans, our children. They deserve the dignity everyone else deserves. They deserve to eat, they deserve their medications, and they deserve to live a fulfilling life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Erica Payne from the Patriotic Millionaires.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erica Payne. I'm founder and president of Patriotic Millionaires. This is a group of business leaders and investors from across the country. We've got a really simple message here. Concentrated wealth is bad for democracy, and it's horrible for business. Yes. Our members do not approach their work through a lens of altruism. They approach it differently. Our chairman says, I'm not any more altruistic than the next guy. I'm just greedy for a different kind of country than a lot of other rich people are. This tax bill doubles down on trickle down, which was one of the stupidest ideas ever brought to life in American. Okay? It's a bad way to run an economy. It's a horrible way to run a society. I have been to this movie before. In 2017, on a party line vote, Republicans rewrote the entire federal tax code. In 2018, for the first time in American history, billionaires paid a lower effective tax rate than every single other group of people in the country. They sell this entire deal under the job creators myth. Last time, like they're doing this time, David Koch spent about $20 million on a job creators bus tour. He's telling everybody why you had to give tax cuts to these folks to create jobs. Guess how much David Koch made from the last tax bill? Estimates, $1.5 billion. $20 million investor, $1.5 billion. Randall Stevenson, CEO of AT&T, was one of the biggest proponents. He insisted that the correlation between tax cuts for corporations and jobs for working people was very, very tight. What did he do after the tax bill passed? He fired 40,000 people after selling as a corporate leader the idea that they would hire people. I want to be really clear. Tax cuts for millionaires do not create jobs. Tax cuts for investors do not create jobs. Tax cuts for people who manage other people's money do not create jobs. And tax cuts for corporations do not create jobs. It doesn't even make sense on its face. Corporations pay taxes on profits. Profits are calculated after expenses like labor. So the next time somebody tells you that giving a corporation a tax cut is going to get somebody a job, they are lying. They are selling snake oil. Let me tell you something. Everybody wants to say what a tax bill will do in the future. Let me tell you what this tax bill is going to do today. It is going to tax working people into poverty. 40% of people in the country make less than $40,000 a year. You start paying taxes in this country, in this bill, it's $16,000. So the federal government, Donald Trump's federal government, plans to tax working people into poverty. Every single dollar that a wealthy person makes is more valuable than every single dollar a working person makes in this bill. If you are a working person and you make $100,000 a year, and an investor clicks a button on an E-Trade account, making $100,000 a year, the working person will pay $9,000 more in taxes than a rich person who's sitting on their tushy, drinking a Mai Tai, and counting their dollars. This is disgusting. And this little trip that Donald Trump says, I'm going to give you no tax on tips. What percentage of people in this country make tips? They're hard workers. I'm not denying them that, but 3% of people. We want to help all the working people. I'm representing a group of millionaires today who are calling for a cost of living tax cut up to the actual cost of living in this country, which is $40,000 a year. And I've got hundreds of millionaires who are happy to pick up the difference in that revenue so it doesn't affect the deficit at all. Cost of living tax cut for working people, paid for by millionaires. That's the kind of solution we need in this tax code. Thank you so much.
Now, I'd like to bring up Mariah Francis from Community Change Action.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. You all are going to hear a lot of stats and figures, and you probably already have in the conversation with this terrible, terrible sham of a budget reconciliation. But I think, for me, I want to talk about a story, because I think sometimes we look at numbers as abstractions and we don't have real concrete evidence of what that looks like. But I want to talk about children. So I'm Mariah Francis. I'm actually an Appalachian. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. So this message really is also to our Republican senators, Senator Mitch McConnell, I'm looking at you, Senator Paul, and I'm looking at Representative Andy Barr, because you're responsible for the 1.3 million Kentuckians right now who rely on Medicaid. I have a niece, she's 5 years old, she's a Medicaid recipient. She's beautiful. She actually was born with a rare condition called arthrogryposis. Her joints are fused at birth. Of no fault of her own, she'll never be able to walk like normal children. But she's very brave, she's very fierce. Majesty has had about 3 surgeries, all before she was 5. She's had countless hours in physical therapy. She has spent days wandering on the sidelines of soccer games and children's events. And she says to her mom, "Mom, why can't I do that? Why can't I walk? Why can't I play sports like normal children?" And what we have to tell her is, you were born with a rare condition, but the great thing about Majesty is she's alive, and her services, the countless hours she spent, the $150,000 procedures, the surgeries that have allowed her to come this far were paid for by Medicaid. So it's interesting that, when you grow up, you go to school, these very people in office, they took a civics class, and they always talk about integrity, our goals as Americans to do the right thing, to be good public servants if that's your desire in life. But I think it's interesting that one day my niece is going to go to school. She's going to pay taxes. She'll be, foisted upon to be a better person, to stand up for her community and participate, be a productive member of society. But some of the very things and benefits that we are guaranteed as members of the American population, she'll never get if we make these Medicaid cuts. This bill is based on a 10-year plan, right? I don't know if she'll make it in 10 years without health insurance. So what's the point of telling our children to be better people, to be better than we are, to work hard for the things that we've apparently invested in, if they'll never see that come to fruition? Meanwhile, millionaires and billionaires' children will be fine. The consequences of this tax bill, the consequences of this sham have nothing to do with streamlining services. This has nothing to do with improving bureaucracy. This has everything to do with giving rich people cuts, billionaires tax cuts. Make no mistake, I understand a lot of people believe the system is rigged. Our government can be doing better. But if you really want to cut out waste, fraud, and abuse, there's ways you can do that. This bill has nothing to do with that. My niece is 5 years old. Why can't she see a future? Without health care, she won't be able to do that. Ever. That's the point in case. That's the line here. That's the bottom line. I'm a doula also, and so I work with birthing communities in Appalachia. Medicaid cuts are going to devastate rural hospital systems. That's it. That means uncompensated care for providers who are already overburdened by a healthcare infrastructure that doesn't work. That won't happen. Do you think they're going to stay? What about those community members in Appalachia, Republicans, white people, black people, poor people? I was raised in a holler. My grandmother has a saying, and this is to the Republican Congress leaders listening to this: ain't nothing slick to a can of oil. We see straight through this. The calculus, the math that you're using to propose these cuts devastate people like us, everyone in this room. This is not about saving money for poor people. This is not about working class conditions improving. This is everything to do about you acquiescing to your billionaire friends and donors. It's reprehensible. It's disgusting. You can't look children in the face and tell them to be better people, to work for this country that you believe in, to abide by the Constitution when you're willing to sell them out over friends and benefits. It's disgusting. So I'm here today to tell you I'm a Medicaid recipient. I'm a doula. I get to be a part of an amazing field because our country is having a maternal mental health crisis right now. Medicaid covers 41% of births in this country. Rural populations see the burden of that. What do you think is going to happen to them if they don't have points of care? It's going to be bad. So I'm just asking for your compassion here. There's not a number or figure I can drop that's going to make you change your mind today. If you don't hear these stories and narratives and feel moved enough, then I don't know what to tell you. All I can tell you is this: communities like mine will never forgive you if you don't vote no on these large cuts. Our country will be devastated. There is no safety net for a safety net. This is the safety net. So do better. Save our country. Republicans, stand up. Don't capitulate to a dictator. Let's get this done and let's keep our country great again. That's how you keep America great again. Healthy, working people, families with options. That's what makes America great. Not tax cuts for billionaires. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to introduce Representative Stephen Horsford of Nevada. Thank you, Congressman.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join with my friends at the Economic Security Project Action and Community Change Action for bringing us all together. In a few minutes, I'll join my colleagues the House Democrats on Ways and Means before we go into our markup at 2:30. And I have some prepared remarks here, but I'm just going to speak from my heart.
Yes. Yeah.
Donald Trump and congressional Republicans are bent on screwing America.
Yes.
This is a scam,
Yes.
but it's a scam that is being enacted on the backs of the American people. In order to give permanent tax breaks to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, to billionaires, some of whom don't even pay enough in taxes already, they want to give them more tax cuts.
How much more money do they need?
But they do it in order to cut health care. Nevada, I represent the 4th Congressional District of Nevada. It's 50,000 square miles. I have rural areas of my district. I have urban parts, including Las Vegas. I did a tour throughout my district to all the rural hospitals, to all the rural community centers. One of my areas in Pahrump, Nye County, which is a very rural community, has no OBGYN services. It does not have a birthing center. 1/3 of Nevadans who are on Medicaid could lose their benefits if this budget gets enacted. 1 out of 3 Nevadans could have their health care impacted. We actually did the right thing a few years ago under the Affordable Care Act to expand coverage.
That's right.
And when we did that, we cut the rate of uninsured by 1/3. Half of them were children, the disabled, seniors, and it is personal. It is about you and all of your families. My grandmother, 3 weeks after I was born, she suffered a debilitating stroke. She went into coma, and when she came out, she was paralyzed on the left side of her body. I didn't understand as a young boy visiting my grandmother. I visited her virtually every week in a nursing home. 40%, 2/3, excuse me, of seniors in nursing homes are covered by Medicaid. 1 out of 10 veterans in this country are covered by Medicaid. I didn't understand it at the time, but it was Medicaid and my grandmother's Social Security disability that allowed her to have the care that she did for 27 years of her life until she passed away. So now I used to tell my grandmother, Grandma, I promise one day I will be in a position to protect you, to make sure you get the care you deserve. Well, my grandmother has gone on, but there are a whole lot of seniors like my grandmother. There are a whole lot of families like the constituents I represent. There are a whole lot of moms that are trying to do the right thing by giving their children prenatal care and the postpartum care that's necessary. All of these things would be cut by Donald Trump and Republicans. It's cruel. It's cruel. It's cruel to cut nutrition assistance from needy children and from seniors and from families. It's cruel to strangle Social Security and Medicare. It's cruel to take away health care from families in order to give tax breaks to billionaires. It's cruel. Yes. Donald Trump, this is not what you were elected for. I don't work for you, and I sure in the hell don't work for Elon Musk. Right. I don't work for billionaires. I work for the people in Nevada who sent me here to do a job. And that job is to make sure that their voices are heard. Now, we are going to have a fight on our hands with these markups.
We're not backing down.
And I need you. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to try to pass these bills in the middle of the night. If they had so much courage, if this big, beautiful bill was so great, Come stand before the American people and walk through it provision by provision. Read the damn bill. And tell the American people how you're not screwing them in order to give tax breaks to billionaires who do not need them. Permanent tax breaks. I've already seen the graphs. Instead of giving permanent tax breaks to moms and dads, by passing the child tax credit, which lifted half of children out of poverty? No, they want to give permanent tax breaks to Elon Musk and to Jeff Bezos. Instead of doing things to actually provide for housing affordability to the tax code, no, they want to give permanent tax cuts to billionaires.
Instead of have people live?
They want to gut Social Security. They want to gut Medicare, and now they want to cut nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid. This would be the largest cut to health care in the history of our country. There is a better way. There is a better way, and I'm gonna call out every one of my Republican colleagues on the committee. I'm gonna name them, and I'm gonna talk about the hundreds of thousands of constituents in each of their districts who are being affected by these cuts. And I'm going to challenge them to break from the cruelty of Donald Trump and congressional Republicans and to join with a coalition of Democrats towards an alternative that actually centers the needs of the people and the workers that we were sent here to represent, not billionaires, to raise the wage for workers, to support small businesses, to make housing more affordable, to protect, not gut, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, to provide equal educational opportunity and job training and skills to compete, and yes, to ensure universal access to affordable health care. It's a fundamental right. That is what we're fighting for. We're not just fighting against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, the voters in 2026 will hold you accountable. They're going to hold you and every member of Congress in the House and the Senate. If they vote for this Screw America bill, he calls it a big, beautiful bill. There's nothing beautiful in it because it's a scam. And if they vote to enact these harms on the American people who ultimately have the power will hold them accountable. So let's do the work now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to organize, and know that the work doesn't stop or start today, it continues. And I'm with you in this fight. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to bring up Salam Bhatti from the Food Research and Action Center, FRAC. You'll go next. We're going to lose the room at once. 2 minutes, please.
You got it. My name's Salam Bhatti. I'm the SNAP director at the Food Research and Action Center. For over 50 years, FRAC has led the fight to improve nutrition, health, and well-being for people across the country struggling with poverty and hunger. Now, right now, House Republicans are advancing one of the most devastating budget proposals in years, one that threatens to slash billions from SNAP, our nation's most effective anti-hunger campaign. Let's be clear. These cuts would hurt more than 42 million Americans who rely on it to put food on the table. These are working parents, older adults, children, veterans, and people with disabilities. But the harm would not stop there. These cuts would ripple throughout our entire economy. More than 250,000 retailers, from grocery stores to corner stores to farmers markets, depend on SNAP dollars to keep their staff employed and to keep the lights on. Farmers, small businesses, rural communities, all of these people benefit from SNAP through the local food systems. Now, if Congress cuts SNAP, here's who pays the price. A grocer in rural Arizona trying to provide good food for their entire community. A farmer in Kansas depending on local families to be able to afford the produce he grows. A grandmother forced to choose between her medication and her meals. Parents in Tennessee skipping dinner so that their children can eat. A disabled combat veteran in Michigan, and the spouse who stays home to take care of him and their entire family just so they can stretch every dollar to make ends meet. If we're serious about building a strong economy and a secure country, then we must invest in all Americans, and that means protecting programs like SNAP. No cuts to SNAP, not now, not ever. When we're up against the Gordian knot of poverty, we should cut the knot itself, not cut the programs that are helping end poverty.
That's right.
Because you can't lead the people if you can't feed the people.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Katie Donnelly, who's an emergency room physician at Children's National Hospital.
My name is Dr. Katie Donnelly. As said, I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician in Washington, D.C. Each shift, I treat children who need emergency medical care. 70% of the children I see each shift are covered under Medicaid. That's beautiful. So many children that need health care have coverage. I am old enough to remember a time when that was not the case. It was brutal and heartbreaking to watch a parent agonize over which medication they could afford or how much the hospital bill will cost. I do not want to go back to that. I want to be clear. Cuts to Medicaid will hurt every one of us. They'll hurt those of us with employer-based health care, people with private insurance, and people who rely on Medicaid. Cutting Medicaid will hurt my 9-month-old son and your aging grandparents. Medicaid is the support, the bedrock that the United States medical system is built upon. Cuts to this funding source don't just hurt those that are insured under Medicaid. Cuts take a fucking jackhammer to the bedrock that our healthcare system is built on. Nationwide, 1/3 of trauma patients are covered by Medicaid. If you show up in our emergency department or somewhere else around the country, we're going to treat you, regardless of what your insurance coverage is. If you're in a car accident, do you want us digging through your wallet trying to find your insurance card? Or do you want us to help? We are going to help. But without Medicare, most of that care goes unfunded. And our hospitals will need to cut doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, laboratory technicians, environmental services staff, food service workers, and all the other vital jobs that keep a hospital running. Hospitals will have to cut an estimated 477,000 healthcare jobs if these cuts go through.
That ain't right.
These lost jobs will affect the entirety of the healthcare system. Our system is already at a breaking point, and it doesn't have more to give. Each shift I am exhausted, trying to do more with less while also keeping children alive. The next time someone you love has a heart attack or a stroke, anaphylaxis or a serious injury, do you want them waiting hours in a crowded ED because the system is this overworked and underfunded?
No. No.
It is absolutely true that American people deserve more and better health care for the amount the U.S. government spends. These cruel cuts are not the way to get there. Take it from someone working on the front line of our healthcare system. Do not cut Medicaid.
Now I'm going to bring up Kelly Bean from Popular Democracy.
My name's Kelly Bean. I am from Warren, Ohio. I have been on food stamps on and off since I was 18 years old. At this time, there are 6 people living in my home, 5 adults and a 12-year-old child. I'm on Social Security. My best friend is on disability. Her mother-in-law is on a pension, and there's 2 people working fast food. I'm the only one on SNAP. 2 months ago, my SNAP was cut from $250 down to $165. I'm feeding 6 people on $165 a month. The rest of the people do not qualify for SNAP. How can that be? With a disability, raising a 12-year-old child, 2 people, one working at Arby's and the other one working at Taco Bell of all places. They don't qualify. They make too much money. A person on a pension makes too much money. Yet I'm feeding 6 people on $165 a month. That's not right in any way you look at it.
Not right.
I'm still sitting here trying to figure out how these people make too much money and they're leaving me to fend for all these people. I'm here to fight for these cuts, to stop them. We can't have these cuts happen. They can't do this to us. I'm not the only one fighting this fight, and I'm not the only one that's being cut and having to battle this battle. The longer we fight this fight, the more we fight this fight, the more chances we have to stop this from happening. We can't sit back and just let this happen. Everybody in this room is fighting this fight. We've got to bring more people in on this fight.
Yes, we do.
The more people that we can bring in, the more chances we have to stop it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right.
The stronger we are, the stronger this power we have, the stronger we're going to be fighting him and fighting all of them.
The more powerful. The more powerful. The more powerful.
The more we fight, the more we thank you. The more we fight, the more we win. The stronger we are, the stronger we fight. Let's fight these people. Let's win this fight.
Thank you. Next is Dr. Harry Holzer from Georgetown University and Brookings.
Thank you. So I'm an economist, everybody's favorite class in college. And my angle on this stuff is going to be a little different, because I want to simply ask the question, is it good for the economy? Will it grow the economy? Because that's what we often hear. Tax cuts spur investment, they spur growth, they'll provide all these benefits. Is that true? The answer is it's not true, and it will harm the economy. And I'm going to give you 4 reasons why. First of all, any economic benefits that the economy gets in terms of higher investment are going to be outweighed by the increases in the deficit and the increases in the debt and the interest on that debt. Conservatives, Republicans are often supposed to say, we care about the deficit, we care about the debt. This is going to swell the debt. The costs of servicing the debt will easily outweigh any economic benefits. Secondly, it's a fact that when children grow up poor in America, they are less economically productive as adults. They have less education, they have worse health, they have more disability, they add less to the economy. So creating more poor people is actually going to detract from the economy. And we know, we have very clear economic evidence that Medicaid and SNAP, when poor kids have access to those programs, they grow up with better health, better education, more productivity, good for the economy. So my third point is that I can make a very similar argument about 2 really important tax credits, the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. And those programs are win-win-win from an economic point of view. Number 1, they give poor people the income they need. Number 2, they improve children's schooling outcomes and health outcomes. And number 3, they incentivize people to work. They raise employment. Why on earth would we want to restrict eligibility of families to programs that create so much economic benefit? It doesn't make any sense. And lastly, okay, we often hear all this might be true, but in America we believe people should work, especially if they're able-bodied, and especially if they don't have kids. And some of the provisions in the SNAP and Medicaid changes are about so-called able-bodied adults with kids. The problem with that is that these kinds of work regs don't even do that. They don't even do that well. They don't raise, they're just not effective at raising people's employment rates. And there's a very important study that Brookings did a few years ago, Lauren Bauer and Chloe East, that showed the work regs in Medicaid and SNAP really do not raise employment very much. They don't raise employment, they raise hardship. Exactly. And even the people who are working and abiding by those rules have trouble proving the administrative burden, the paperwork. People get kicked off the rolls even when they're working, and that will be the primary fact. So bottom line, is this proposal, this set of proposals, good for the economy? No, it's not. It will hurt the economy on almost every important dimension. The arguments in favor of it are completely specious. This bill should not be enacted. Thank you.
Now I'm going to bring up Janice Park from Debt Collective.
Hi, my name's Janice Park. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I haven't slept because I took a red eye in here because it's important to be here. I'm a proud member of the Debt Collective, the nation's first union of debtors, and I know what this budget is designed to do. It is going to steer more families into debt. It is going to cause more hunger, suffering, and death. This is the Trump-Musk America, a world where billionaires fly to space, where the rest of us are drowned with medical bills, student debt, and rent. When trillions are spent on endless wars, we're told there's not enough money for housing, health care, and food. The budget does not serve working families, health care, or veterans programs. It guts food security, education, and Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and even awards more cash to tax cuts for the ultra-rich.
That ain't right.
Most cruelly, the budget targets children. Right now, Republicans are pushing a plan that would permanently deny full child tax credits to 17 million children. These are working families, families that are struggling with rising costs and the tariffs. This proposal could push over 2 million people into poverty and drive families into debt. And let's be clear that this is a choice. The child tax credit has the power to keep food on the table, cover rent, and offer breathing room for families who are struggling. Expanding the tax credit is one of the most effective tools to reduce child poverty. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are our kids and families. In Alaska alone, there are almost 161,000 people enrolled in Medicaid or CHIP for children, totaling 23% of the population in 2023. These numbers include elders in senior care, children under the age of 18, and 38% of births in 2022 were covered by Medicaid and CHIP for Alaska families. My own grandson was born prematurely. At 26 weeks, he weighed 1.12 pounds. CHIP paid for his hospitalization for over 3 months in the neonatal intensive care in Anchorage, Alaska. And without that care, he would have died. There's only one such facility for the entire state of Alaska. Working families cannot shoulder the burden of care like that for one of their children. After my grandson was out of the hospital, my son was able to receive the federal child tax credit, which enabled him to pay for child care. In Alaska, child care for one child is now $1,400, the equivalent of a one-bedroom apartment. While my son was able to pay child care, my daughter-in-law finished her college degree. Our working families need both the child tax credit and the child and dependent care tax credit in order to prosper and build a future where our children can grow up healthy and strong. 2/3 of all children ages 5 and younger need child care because the adults in the home are working. These tax credits allow parents to build a future for their families and provide safe care for their kids. Without the federal child tax credit and the child dependent tax credit, more families will be forced into poverty. We have already lost significant portions of the social safety net that would provide housing and food security for a lot of these families. We must put people over tax cuts for billionaires. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I want to bring up Jamie Worker from Caring Across Generations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Worker. I'm with Caring Across Generations. Caring Across works on behalf of family caregivers, disabled people, older adults, and care workers to change the way we support and value care and caregiving in this country. And late Sunday night, House Republican leadership released bill language that told us what we already knew. They intend to cut Medicaid and take away health care, aging and disability care from millions of seniors, children, disabled people, families who are already struggling with the cost of care. Specifically, the bill includes at least $715 billion in cuts and would take away essential care for more than 14 million people across the country in order to pay for tax breaks for the wealthiest and big corporations.
That ain't right.
And make no mistake, we know that every proposal to cut and make other harmful changes to Medicaid is a threat to the health and well-being of older adults, disabled people, family caregivers, and families in every community, in every district across this country. Medicaid matters at every stage of life. And at a time when the cost of care is skyrocketing, taking away essential life-saving care is the last thing that we need.
Yes.
We need more investments in care in Medicaid, not less. For so many of us, Medicaid is the only option we have when we get into an accident, or a kid gets sick, or our mom needs long-term care. Medicaid helps us put our care and our families first. This is clear from my own family story, too. Medicaid paid for my mom's care during her pregnancy and childbirth, also my own birth in Texas. And now I have 2 kids of my own. And when our youngest was 2, his teachers shared with us that they were concerned about his speech development. He was able to receive early intervention screening for vital services supported by Medicaid. Also, unlike my now 4-year-old and 7-year-old, I didn't have the opportunity to get to know my great-grandparents. But we recently celebrated the 100th birthday of their great-grandmother. She lives in Indiana with her daughter and is able to live and age at home because of Medicaid. Medicaid pays for a direct care worker to come to their home when my aunt, her primary family caregiver, is at work. Right now, Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, provides health insurance to millions, nearly 80 million, or 1 in 5 people across the country. Medicaid is a lifeline for seniors, children, people with disabilities at any age, during pregnancy and childbirth, people who are working multiple jobs and struggling to make ends meet, who can't afford health care or don't receive health care through their employer. Medicaid, not Medicare, is also the primary source of funding for aging and disability care, including home and community-based care. This makes Medicaid critical to the well-being of millions of older adults and disabled people seeking to live and age with dignity at home and in their communities with their loved ones. Medicaid is also critical for the care workers who do the work that make all other work possible. And direct care workers, the personal care aides, nursing assistants, direct support professionals, home care workers, 1/3 of these workers provide aging and disability care, also rely on Medicaid for their own health care. Medicaid is also critical for family caregivers to have health care when managing caregiving responsibilities and the job that they need to pay the bills and put food on the table. We are all doing the best that we can to care for ourselves and for the people that we love. And the truth is, we deserve better than this. In a country where 10,000 of us are born and 10,000 of us turn 65 every day, we should not be fighting to save Medicaid. We should be talking about how to strengthen Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security for generations to come. That's why we're saying no cuts, no concessions. Not $1 should be taken away from our health care to pay for tax giveaways for the wealthiest and big corporations. Medicaid is not a piggy bank, and we must continue to protect our public dollars for care and investments that actually lower costs for families while ensuring that people can access the care that they need without risking everything. This fight is far from over, and we will continue to fight back against these proposed cruel cuts and harmful proposals, and make sure that each of us has the care that we need and deserve. Thank you.
Our concluding speaker is Josie Badger, the owner of J. Badger Consulting and partnership with Family Values at Work. We're just going to create a little bit more space for her to get behind the podium. Dr. Donnelly, will you let me move this forward like 2 feet?
There we go. Really? Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Because I should not be sitting here saying that my life and the lives of 17 million disabled Americans are on the line. I don't want to be here trying to prove that we are worthy of the care. And I'm also not here to talk about politics because I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Independent. We're talking about people, not policy. I am here to share that I am holding space for those people who cannot speak for themselves. Those people who are at home praying, writing legislators to ask, to beg for their lives, because we have the right to that. I don't know about everyone else, but the country that I call home, that I love, truly believes in the words, all people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's right.
I don't live in a country that believes that those people that have that right are only able-bodied millionaires. We need to be thinking about the individuals, whether they are too disabled to work, or like me, an individual who is both very disabled and able to own businesses, to be able to be a part of society. And regardless of what some secretaries may believe, disability does not mean we cannot work or have families or date or love. I am a business owner, I'm a foster mom, I'm a homeowner. But no matter what I am, I deserve the dignity to be able to live the life of anyone in my own home with people who love me and care for me. With these cuts, we're pushing states to have to make the decision on who's worthy to receive Medicaid. Is it the individuals that are too disabled to work because of the environment? Is it the individuals that can work who are really disabled? Because here in America, we define disability by the ability to earn money. Is it the caregiver?